Friends, family, brothers, sisters, fellow Americans, and global citizens. Greetings from Montana in the United States of America. My name is Brent A. Bozen. For those of you who happen to see this video and do not know me, I've decided to make this video. No water. I've decided to make this video at this time in our country's history, June 9th, 2020. We've just experienced a global pandemic and are currently in the midst of a global pandemic, COVID-19, and some tragic events that have happened in the United States of America. One event that will probably live in this nation's history that happened in Minneapolis, Minnesota, to a gentleman whose name should never be forgotten, George Floyd. The reason I'm making this video is because I've had some wonderful experiences in intercultural cooperation. And a business colleague and myself formulated 7 principles of intercultural cooperation, which I believe our country is in sorely need of these days. Let me give you a short introduction to myself, so to give you some idea why a boy who grew up in rural Idaho, 99% Caucasian, has the right to speak to you about intercultural cooperation. A good friend of mine in high school was a Native American from the Sioux tribe. We played together on the basketball team and shared youthful foibles. We also made an abortive attempt to travel to his roots in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. My first experience with the culture outside the United States was a family trip we took to Montreal, Canada in 1967 for the Expo 67, where I was enthralled as a 7-year-old boy with the Japan Pavilion. I was enthralled with the koi pond, as I'd been with my father fishing on the streams in Bear River and in Idaho, Cub River, Mink Creek in Idaho. And also the kindness of the elderly Japanese gentleman who accompanied myself and my family that day in Montreal. When I was 17 years old, I undertook a serious study of my family's religion and was subsequently sent to Japan on a 2-year mission. There, I encountered a culture that was very different from my own. I subsequently studied Chinese and spent several years in Taiwan, where I married the most beautiful girl on the island. We lived for several years in Hawaii, where I obtained a graduate degree in international business from the University of Hawaii at Manoa. I've been blessed with many other opportunities. Worked for one of the pioneering internet companies in 1999 through 2006. Some of our responsibilities as that company underwent aggressive global expansion entailed working with other cultures to help them understand our company's practices and understand their practices, their best practices as well, ultimately. After working for this company for 6.5 years, one of my colleagues and I formulated these 7 principles of intercultural cooperation. The first principle of intercultural cooperation is solidify a common mission. I spent 5 years in the Chicago area. Part of that time was spent volunteering at the Marillac St. Vincent Social Center on San Francisco Avenue, not far from the United Center and Malcolm X College. There I was able to work with wonderful, beautiful people. Shout out to Sister Judith, wherever she might be. I found that the opportunities in life, I became profoundly grateful for the opportunities I had in life, especially for education. Our country is founded on sacred principles that all men are created equal and have right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Our country has experienced 10 days of protest, at times turning violent. People have lost their lives. We need to come together in this nation as citizens of the United States of America. Let's find and solidify a common, worthwhile mission. As a God-fearing man, I understand there are forces of good and evil at play in this world. And ultimately, all good comes from God through his Son, Jesus Christ, who is the Savior of this world. As a country, the First Amendment of our Constitution states that government will make no law prohibiting the free exercise of religion, paraphrasing. As fellow Americans, we need to understand that my life has as much value as my neighbor's. My life has as much value as the George Floyd's in our country. Minneapolis, you have committed to revamping your police department. You have many cultures in your city. The first principle of intercultural cooperation, I repeat, is solidify a common mission. As you undertake goals to make your city better, undertake the mission that solidifies unity within your community that represents the needs of all citizens in your community, that all citizens can unite under. I believe as you do so, you can become a beacon to our country, to the Supreme Court, to the world. We live in interesting times, friends, family, brothers, sisters, global citizens, fellow Americans. United, we stand. Divided, God forbid, we would fall. In God we trust. Blessings to all.